So welcome everyone to the Canoe Agentic AI SIG meeting, community meeting on July 10th. So I think most of you are familiar faces, Noel, you're new to this group from Cisco. So let's do a quick intro, and if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself, we'll do a quick high level on this Agentic AI group. So please go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Noelle Flint. I'm on the Outshift marketing team, so I'm helping support product marketing for Jarvis. So I'm just here to be a fly on the wall and listen in to the progress that you guys have been making. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Noel. And just for context for folks in the community, we're tapping into some of our resources to see how we can use our product marketing as well as our open source resources. Sujata, who's going to help us with how to build a community and help us create a thriving community. So we'll tap into some of our networking resources to help with that. So thank you, Noel. Appreciate joining this, and we'll have some of the Cisco folks come in and listen into these meetings to help us be more efficient with this. So on our side, we have myself, Shri, Hasid, Sunny, Ifan, and Arthur, Marwa, and Rihan. Some of the folks are listening in, and some of folks have been contributing on different sides. And again, we have Luke joined, so I think you admitted. Yeah, great. So hey, Luke, thanks for joining us. I don't know if you have been to these meetings before. If you are new, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Luke Adams. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I am a distinguished engineer at Capital One. Just saw the release. We are just wrapped up our GA of Backstage in May, and are super interested in what you guys are building here. And we were architecting out something very similar, and you guys are way out in front of us. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Luke. Thanks for joining. I think it may help to talk about the project as we, I think we're letting a few more folks in. We have another Luke Phillips. Thanks for joining. If you, we're still in intro phases, introducing any new folks to the team. So Luke, if you can come off mute and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah, cool. Great. Luke Phillips, been just active in the Argo community and earlier Canoe activities, and just kind of continuing to listen in and learn from this group here.
Awesome. Thank you. I posted a link to this this WebEx chat. If y'all can sign in and put your company name, that'll help us, with our engagement and identify who's joining our community meetings. So just as a level set for folks who are joining it, I think both the Lukes and Gaurav and Adam, I think you guys have been to these meetings. So we have several folks from Outshift group in Cisco. Gaurav is from AWS and Adam is from Demandbase. And yeah, we've been getting together in this community forum. Without further ado, we have made some progress on our website, and this is a good intro to everybody to catch us up on this community and what we're doing, and what is the unique proposition we're building. And we have some demos as well to showcase and open up for community Q&A. So as a community in Canoe Cloud Native Operational Excellence, we are a special interest group. What we're really effectively trying to do is, platform engineering, SRE DevOps is complex. There's a lot of toil in serving the needs of developers and running platform operations. Backstage certainly will streamline some of that with bringing together projects and services and information in one place. What we have found out within our own department when we introduced agentic AI to do some self-service automation and providing information retrieval in an easy agentic way. We found a lot of success there. So we wanted to take this effort to the community, and that's what we're building here. We have a successful stable tag right now. We're continuing to build more deployment, cloud-friendly deployment options, which we'll demonstrate today. So kind of in a nutshell, we aim to provide a secure enterprise-ready deployable reference implementation. There'll be some use case agents like platform engineer, incident engineer, product owner. And the stuff I put together on this website is, yeah, anybody can build agents. What is our unique proposition in this community group? We're curating prompt libraries, which are evaluated against, these set of agents that we think are good references that the Canoe members can take it and either use it as it is, or at least it will be a solid starting point to build off of. We're also leveraging Backstage ecosystem to build front ends like a chat plugin that we open sourced, which will use standard protocols like A2A, create those secure communications using OAuth, and also we'll have some opinions on how do we do API RBACs with something like Keycloak, pass the scopes from Backstage UI all the way back to the MCP servers. And as much as possible, we want to create these with enterprise-ready architecture. So that's in a nutshell, the goal of this project. I just want to reiterate that as we are still fairly nascent community and we're building this out. I just want to pause and see Asit, Gaurav, Adam, and others on this call. Anything you want to add from what you have been seeing in the previous calls?
No, I think nothing from my side. I think you articulated it well.
Thank you. Any folks who are joining new, do you guys have any questions on the community and what we're building? And of course, we'll show some demos.
And one thing I would say is like the success criteria for the community is we want this to be like self-sustaining, and we ultimately, yes, we are putting a lot of effort from Cisco side right now, but the community to really take off, we want you guys to take this, implement it in your production deployments, and also make code contributions and really get involved. So anything that kind of help us accomplish that, we are completely open for ideas and collaborate and whatnot. So feel free to get involved from that point. Go ahead, Luke.
So one of the things that, like, as I look at these agents, and I again just coming up to speed, so maybe a newbie question, but we have a lot of controls that we end up putting on top of these specific SaaS tools like PagerDuty and GitHub. Do you guys envision a standard kind of middleware or ability to inject policies within those agents that don't have to be kind of hard coded in the agent themselves?
That makes sense. Like the way you can imagine this is like so it's a implemented, you have a multi-agent system, agents and building blocks to build a multi-agent system. And then when you, on a specific instance that you implement in any given enterprise, you'll have policies, you'll have unique ways to kind of wire up certain agents. So those type of things, we completely need to make those provisions. That's why they it makes this problem quite interesting. The benefits are obviously the DevOps and platform engineering is an easy use case for everybody to experiment and kind of accelerate internally with AI. So that's a huge tailwind in some ways. But the complexity comes and the challenge with what we are doing is every enterprise have unique needs and policies and things. So in fact, the open source effort has to cater for that, which is kind of the challenge, but that's a good thing. I think it's a solvable problem, and then it allows us to kind of like iterate and kind of like go into this agentic world. Go ahead, Trey. I think you can add that bit more from.
I think as expanding on to what Tessie said, the phase one look is to build that reference architecture without some of those middlewares. We do see whether it's something like a gateway middleware, like an API gateway, especially when enterprise RBACs are closer to your MCP servers. So when you're calling the last mile API, that's where you need some kind of a policy engine, Caspian or OPA, and maybe that's tied to some kind of a gateway where ultimately when the user makes a natural language query request and that eventually gets translated to a tool, we want to make sure that and one of the examples I'm taking off of from is if I ask the agent delete all the GitHub repos, it really should not honor my request, even though at the lowest level, the agent is using a service token. It should know who I am with the right scopes and RBACs. And at the MCP tool layer, it should say, hey, this user really does not have permission to delete that. We want to get there. Of course, we don't. That's at least the project goal. We don't have that opinion implemented yet. One thought process is to offload that to a gateway to do those RBAC checks. The other opinion is to use a policy engine within the MCP servers, either take third-party MCP, attach a policy framework in front of it, or if you are building first-party MCP servers, use something like Caspian to map those scopes to that. That's really roughly in the direction we're headed. But if you have any thoughts or have done some research in the space, would love to learn from you.
Yeah, not yet. That's great information, and I'm sure on a follow-up call I will. But
Yeah.
glad you're thinking about it. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole MCP OZ authorization is quite nascent. There are some extensions proposed in that space. Right now, I think we're trying to use still the OAuth 2.0 and see how we can take something like Keycloak, and if you have an IDP like Keycloak and you define scopes, how can we make sure the resource server honors those scopes and it's not allowing the user access to any tool? That's the case today. I think people who are building MCP servers, they're using service account credentials, but there is no mapping of users to those service credentials. At least at something like GitHub, it uses personal access tokens or its own OAuth, but your IDP scopes don't match to that, at least right now. I will pause and see if there are any other questions, thoughts. While we are on this subject of like website, so I think our documentation started to get, a little out of hand with README, a single README. So we put this together using DocuSign as it auto publishes when we commit. It's just a GitHub pages. So there is a quick start guide for folks who are joining new. There is already a Docker Compose that you can bring up and run. So there is a CLI interface as well as a Agent Forge plugin interface. We have a PR pending to take the Backstage JWT token or your provided JWT token and pass it to the downstream agent. That's still pending, but right now you can at least validate that the plugin comes up and it's talking to the agent. I mean, it's not deployable to production yet. We are in the process of kind of making the code changes there. The PR is under review, but still some more things need to happen there. But to try it out, you should be able to bring up the Docker Compose and run the clients. I think several of you have tried it. Sunny will demo how we are able to like progress to deploy to a EKS cluster, any cluster basically. We took EKS as an example, and then there are documentation around how to set up local environment, etc. Some of these fields are TBD. We need to flush these out, and with community engagement, we will get some more stuff there. One of the asks from the community is, okay, great, we can bring up all these agents. I can run some sample queries. What can we do with these agents, right? We want to build some use case agents or personas so that, and a set of validated prompt libraries so that I can ask, hey, do some deep research on this incident. Go fetch like, playbooks, run some analysis to Kubernetes and augment the incident with this research, or do postmortem, post-incident documentation or generate reports. This is just a first cut at writing this. I want to pause here and see if y'all have any feedback on these type of use case agents, so we can start building on top of like, okay, we have these agents, what do we do with these agents?
I mean, the incident engineer is the primary one that my org has and was been kind of been focusing on is that. So I think that's going to definitely be useful.
Awesome. Adam, do you have any? I mean, maybe if you don't mind taking a look at this prompt library and see, share your thoughts, or if you can contribute to that.
Yeah, I'd be
Great.
happy to.
Awesome, great. I'll take a note here on my notepad. We'll create. I think there is already a ticket that Omar has been working on. So if you could collaborate with Omar.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. And team, if there are any other use cases that you can think of, I think there are 3 high-level ones. The platform engineer is so broad, we didn't expand on it. Luke, go ahead, please.
Well, one of the things that we're focusing in on is helping engineers with vulnerability remediation,
Yeah.
and also around like false positives, generating evidence and determining if it's a false positive. So I know that there are specific tools out there that we use, industry tools, but that's one that would be interest of us.
Yeah.
Look, how are you guys thinking about that problem? So one of the, you have to think about it in the form of a knowledge-based type of thing, because one of the problems we've had internally is so many systems, so many vulnerabilities. Even if you have, even if an expert has the access to things, it's like, you're kind of like swamped with a lot of data and information. You don't know what's important to fix and where the patches are. That's the level of problems you're generally talking about, right? And what we have found is if you kind of like bring all this different information source into a graph database type of thing, and then you can do very interesting things around it. So that's what we have found, at least when we are tying up special, these kind of, different systems. And there's a piece that is out there. It's open at the moment, and we can. Sri, did we do a session on it? We did a session last week, right?
Yeah, we have a session on the drag. Basically, it's not merged yet, but we can do a quick refresher to the team. So I think it actually the graph flag is merged. The idea, as Hasib described, is it creates relationships with your data. So you could create relationships with Kubernetes entities and your cloud accounts. And if you have internal tooling, like inside Cisco, we use something called run on, where you provision those accounts to maybe downstream vulnerabilities. That could be an interesting methodology. But more, I think as you bring that up, look, I will add that use case, basically DevSecOps use case, and maybe even narrow it down to vulnerability assessment, right? I think that would be a good use case to write down. Yeah, and if you are willing to, like, if you have some interesting contributions, that would be great too.
Yeah,
Please contribute.
absolutely.
Gaurav, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment, and this looks great. Thanks for setting up all this documentation with use cases. So when I was looking at use case, does it more sounded to me more like a persona, and then a persona could have use cases. So just a thought, like when we say use case, and say platform engineer as a use case, then there could be multiple sub use cases or workflows that are relevant to a platform engineer. So I was curious, like, do we want to call this use case terminology as a persona terminology, like a platform engineer persona, incident manager persona, DevSecOps engineer as a persona, and then have use cases under it? So just that was just a thought when I saw that use case. Nothing major. If we all like this, like use case semantics, great. But just wanted to mention this thought too.
That makes sense. I mean, we have two personas, right? So one is one in the context of personifying the agentic, multi-agentic systems, right? How we do that. So that's
Mhm.
one. So this is basically because your kind of interactions are almost personable, right? Like, so therefore it makes sense. And then the other thing is when you're coming back for a normal users of the system, there'll be different personas there. People who wanting different things, like there are multiple developer personas, there are platform engineers, SRE, and if you go to a larger enterprise, there's personas there who are interested in specific things. I mean, we have done, like, internally, we did a bit of work, like initially when we were thinking about the system, but we haven't done that extensively. But I don't know, we may want to think about some clarification there, and as well as terminology, so that we can kind of like people don't get confused with what we are referring to, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, this was like a nitpicking kind of a suggestion, but broadly, like when I first looked at those use cases, I was trying to also correlate it with multi-agent systems that we have built in our repository. But yeah, it looks fine. I think this is where we can start and evolve it if we want to segment use cases across personas, or if this
So
continues to flow as it is.
that's a good point. Let's not call the multi-agent systems personas. We need to
Okay.
right, like because you have the user persona. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a decision that we need to make, right? Because if you then there's like two things, right? You have the user personas, and then the almost like personalities and profiles that we give to some of these systems, which I think we need to distinguish that and kind of be clear with it, so that people don't get confused.
Yeah, I think I would probably go with the more evaluation driven, like data driven choice with this. One of the things we're learning with context engineering, which is like new terminology that came out, is the more agent context. Let's say your multi-agent system has a lot more sub-agents, it has more context. Then your LLM has higher probability of misfiring, because it then has a lot of overlapped information. If you're doing some self-service with Kubernetes, you're also doing incident management with Kubernetes and other vulnerability tools. So it can get confusing for the agent to pick which, like, prompt it based on the prompt, and if it's very lengthy prompt. I think this is probably maybe, Gaurav, as you said, this is a first cut at segmenting this. Maybe we just have to reassess once we get more data. Go ahead, Luke.
Um, are you guys thinking it like we use the terms outer loop and inner loop? I think a lot of what we're talking about is outer loop when you're like in the IDP or backstage or whatever, and you're you know working through vulnerabilities or working through a large context. But in the use case of like vulnerability remediation, if we determine that a vulnerability is not a false positive and we want to help the engineer with the actual fix, Do you think about, transferring that context to the inner loop in the IDE with like a Copilot or a Windsurf or something that can call out to kind of pick up where you might have started?
Yeah, so if I take your example and analogy, so if you have an engineer who is exclusively focused on fixing or assessing a vulnerability, um, then they need, let's say, a subset of agents or one multi-agent system that is exclusively focused on doing that, rather than this Uber system that potentially that could do that one as well. We just have to see how good those systems perform if they have many sub-agents.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think in this
yeah,
case, we want to get back to the right models that support like code generation or that aspect of it, but we want to bring in that context that they might have started with when they found the actual vulnerability. But we don't want to do all that in the quote unquote the outer loop of the chatbot or the,
yeah.
the, the IDP.
So can you maybe expand your example? So you're thinking you have an engineer who is working on a piece of code, and will this be in the context of a pull request, or is it in the context of like a offline scan of
Yeah,
code?
so it'd be like let's just take the easy like the static code analysis scans and a vulnerability is posted and we determine that it's not a false positive. The engineers located it. We've given them the summarization of the CVE, et cetera. And now we want to start helping them with the remediation of the code fix to
Yep.
do that. We don't want to do that in the outer loop. We want to take them back into the IDE, but all that context from the agents or otherwise is valuable information to help them with that remediation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that inner loop that you're talking about could be that interface. Like if you're in something like VS Code, there is like Copilot agent mode. I think what we're connecting the dots there is, do we have many of these agent personas? Uh, in that case, where the engineer is trying to resolve a vulnerability, will that engineer talk to this very specialized vulnerability fix agent that uses a subset of agents, or will it talk to an Uber platform engineer agent that knows it has like different personas? I I don't think we know the answer yet. At least that's what I'm contemplating. Um, I think we should probably take one approach, and evaluate like the data, like with prompts, and see if one is better than the other.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think one of the things that we're just thinking about is like the outer loop might actually generate the prompt that we and then take to the inner loop to the Copilot or to the Windsurf, but like trying to
Yeah.
bridge that gap is something that we're working through.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should. Maybe this is a good topic for a discussion page. So how about we create a discussion page around like use case agents, and maybe Gaurav, look, if you all can pitch in your thoughts. We'll start with the opinions we have today. We'll build something that we can start validating, but I think this is not a settled thing by any means. Right? Is that okay with everyone?
That's good. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's do that. So I will take an action to create GH discussion for use case and agents. Yep, this is exciting. We're getting a lot of traction there. So without further ado, I'm going to go back to the agenda. So we quickly talked about documentation updates. In terms of for everybody to orient where we are at, if you go to canoe.io under AI platform engineering, so this is like one central place where everything is. All the issues are here, and there is a project board that lists, what activities are happening right now. We are working towards end of July, what we're calling 0.0.1, like, where we can actually ourselves internally start consuming this. We have a different internal system that we're kind of migrating to this OSS system. So the idea would be have auth and auth-c implemented, EKS deployments, which we use internally for SaaS, and then have it already in the open source. So these are some itemized list of things that are happening right now. One of the engineer intern that we have in London, Omar, is working on one of the first use case agents. I think I just mentioned that. So Adam, if you can coordinate with Omar, and I'll connect you guys in a Slack. So that's one thing that is happening right now. And I'll pause here. Anyone has any quick questions on the project status and where things are going? Like I mentioned, in terms of the issues and milestones, we have stable tags. Everybody can try it, but in terms of full, I can take this Helm chart, deploy it, and get an enterprise ready version like 0.0.1. That is planned for end of this month. And again, this is all tentative and it's subject to change, but that's what we're working towards.
Yeah, just maybe I missed it at the first glance, but is there work already planned to move the agents to be like a class or something like that, to have a factory to handle it, or
Yeah,
um
good question. I think right now we did a dump of all the agents that were in individual repos. I think for new folks who haven't seen this before, we had a lot of individual repos. So I think, Adam, we just dumped all the code here, but you're right. We should create a factory or a template where they all can share a bunch of the code from. Today they're like individual agent folders. Take a look at the code and see if you can suggest some improvement.
okay, so I already rewrote the multi-agent code
Okay,
because I needed it to not, because like we don't use like Argo CD, right? So like I mean, like we want to make it able for people to pick and choose, and I moved that all to
yeah,
like config files, right? But I mean, I can probably also do it on the open source version. But I just, or not the open source version, but I mean, I just did it locally. So I mean, I'm just trying to figure out if that's work that you think we should pursue, or because I
I
just
think
didn't.
it is definitely worth
Yeah.
pursuing because everybody, I think, looks not everybody is using the same agents. So if you could create that flexibility in the, or if you can suggest some ways to do it, or maybe at least give rough idea of the code, we can collaborate on that.
Great. So should I create an issue for that, or not issue?
Yeah, let's create an issue. I will go ahead and put a placeholder here.
Okay.
Placeholder issue. Let's do that. So what would you call this? How would you create like a agent factory?
Yeah, I think just creating an agent factory would be the easiest way to describe it.
Awesome. I will set this up, and if you, I'll put it, but if you can at least give some guidance or initial implementation, we can start
Yeah, we'll do.
contributions there. Yeah. The
Actually,
one of the first.
sorry, just quick thing.
Yes,
I
please.
may have missed it, but for 0.001, whatever version number we are using, is there a milestone that we have created and identified issues which will be part of it? Just curious. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so I created a milestone. I threw a
okay.
few things in here. I think I would encourage everybody. I'll put this in the notes in the chat to give your opinion on what should be included and not. That way we can, and this is purely very basic planning. Just I did, um, but I'll put this in the notes as well.
No, thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we can aim for by that milestone is including the traceability, and which without further ado, I'll let Sunny demo this. So we should have a a cloud, something like EKS, we can deploy all these Helm charts, and the multi-agent system, one of the persona agents can be deployed and it can be accessed via Backstage, and we should be able to ask queries. So that's the idea. So without further ado, if there are no other immediate questions, we'll do the deployment demo from Sunny, and we'll touch on the evals. I think there are some questions, Gaurav, we had on LangFuse and evals, so we'll touch on that. And we have one more Commodore demo, and we'll open it up for more Q&A. So I will pass the ball to Sunny so she can show some of the work with Helm charts and EKS deployment.
So basically, we'll be demoing the Helm chart that we created for this AI platform engineer and how I currently deployed to our very minimal EKS cluster. So let me first take the share. Do let me know if there's any issue with audio or anything, but hopefully it should be okay. Cool. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'll just quickly show you where they are. The README files and the docs page are still in progress. We'll hopefully be adding them tomorrow. But the Helm chart itself is already in this repo. So it's designed such that it's the chart of charts basically, because obviously every agent is designed in such a way that we don't actually need specific agent charts. So it is basically based on a single agent chart, as well as external secret configuration for those who want to use external secrets for the management. And the way we define for each agent is inside this chart. So you can see that for each agent, we create a separate dependency with different aliases. So although it's all based on the same agent chart, we can see that now we deploy Argo CD agent, Atlassian, Backstage, and etc. And I did also the quick Python script. So if anyone's adding a new agent, it's really easy to automatically modify the Helm chart and create a pull request with it. There are two special agents here, as you can see, which I will demo in a second as well. So AI platform engineering, this is our multi-agent. So the idea is that this agent will be the one talking to all the individual agents to actually answer your questions. And Backstage is, once again, the Agent Forge plugin allows you to then interact with this multi-agent. So now that I've kind of briefly introduced the Helm chart, I'll show you how I've actually deployed this into my EKS cluster. So hopefully now you can see my VS Code instead. So I basically created this cluster. We have our own AWS Dev account, but at the end of the day, all I did was using EKCTL to create a very simple cluster with 3 nodes. And I'll add this documentation. So if anyone else also obviously has AWS account, wants to try EKS, they can do that. It should be very simple. It doesn't really have much running. It automatically comes with obviously different kube system. I did deploy AWS load balancer. And then what I did was I did a local deploy of Argo CD. So this is once again very easy. Just Helm pull the chart and you deploy. So I'll add the documentation for that as well. But what's nice is that now you can port forward the Argo CD so that you can, I've conveniently already done it there. So you can kind of just already view your Argo CD. And now this is where we are gonna try to deploy the Helm chart that I just showed you. So here I've actually created an application already. And all I really had to do was I've created basically this file. Argo CD application, it's very simple. Because when we merge any changes to the Helm chart I showed you earlier, like here, it basically automatically pushes this Helm chart to our GHCR. So all this application resource is doing is it's now pulling from GHCR for the exact target version. And what's neat about this for anyone else who actually wants to try this out is that you can then create your own branch to basically modify your own values and let your Argo to automatically sync with that. So here you can see that I have a branch for Argo CD app deploy. So I will show you what I have in that branch. Basically, if I go to Argo CD app deploy, you'll see that I made a few changes here. So you can see that here I've created, well, the application resource itself that I deploy, as well as in this case, I've already manually created secrets I needed for the agents I'm running on the cluster and deployed it using Kube's console apply. As well as I've enabled certain agents in the values file so that the chart can automatically deploy Argo CD, PagerDuty, Atlassian, and Backstage agent in this case. Then what happens is that your Argo CD will automatically sync. So any change you push on this branch will also get automatically synced on Argo CD. And we'll be able to then deploy this chart based on your chart and values file. So that's what you see here. So in the AI platform engineering namespace, you can see currently this is our multi-agent. This is our Backstage plugin, and the rest are the single agents that's running. So I've already conveniently pulled forwarded a few things. So I pulled forwarded Backstage onto, this is port 12,002. So it's already here. Basically, the idea is that, it deploys the Backstage, which is obviously open source, and this is our own plugin. And you can just click the Jarvis and say, hi. So obviously it comes back with a very generic answer, but then if I ask, what can you do? And it will start thinking, and what I can show you in the meantime is if I go back to my cluster, I can see that this log will now come through to our multi-agent because it knows which port to. Currently, everything is like I'm doing port forward to localhost and is looking for correct port. But you can see that the conversations are coming through, and now it's saying, okay, we can do these things. Obviously, this will change depending on which agent you have actually deployed on the cluster. But so, for example, let's say, okay, who is currently on call on PagerDuty? And what we should hopefully see is it does take some time. Hopefully we can do some optimization there, but it should then try to basically call the PagerDuty agent here. So yeah, there you go. I don't know if it's big enough, but try to zoom in. You can see that it says connected to remote agent PagerDuty, and conveniently I can now go to agent PagerDuty and show you the logs here. So what it's doing is, because I've already given it the tokens that it needs to actually go to PagerDuty API, query stuff, it then, so multi-agent talks to the PagerDuty agent, and PagerDuty agent does the API query, and then it gets it all back. So you can see these kind of, okay, lots of people on different rotors. So I can even ask, like, I don't know, who is on call next week, or it's a fun thing to do. What would be a good one? Integration, there are quite a few different things. Like maybe this. And obviously this is still like in progress. So I'll try to also try a different agent. I'm not sure. Sure, actually, do you know if Jira might work? I might as well
Yeah,
try it out.
I think some of the secrets are not wired up, but I think as we showed in the past, basically it can talk to multi-agents, whether it's Slack or Jira, etc. For folks who are seeing the Backstage plugin, I want to emphasize that this is this is how you can run a Backstage in dev environment, or the plugin in dev. So it's not running the entire Backstage, it's just running the plugin. That's a community plugin we open sourced entirely, so it takes an A2A interface, and you can chat with structured data, structured input output, and more is coming to that plugin in terms of basically getting auth and auth saved into that plugin, or coordinating with Spotify to understand how we can take like an IDP token and pass it down to the downstream third-party agent, like the one that Sunny is showing. So I know we are running a little short on time. This is great demo. Any questions for Sunny on this deployment? The docs will come in. This is early sneak peek. The docs will get a PR sometime this week.
I think this is great because I mean, at least it makes it easy to deploy whatever agents you want. So it's nice having a universal Helm chart for it. So great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. So we have Rehan, who has been working on a RAG agent. I know everybody has RAG agents. This is a way for us to deploy an open source RAG. So we can basically query on any platform docs or playbooks. So it can be used even as a planner agent. So if there is a set of runbooks, like if you are building incident engineer persona, you can have a series of runbooks, query from this RAG agent, and then give those prompts to the downstream agent. So Rehan, if you want to quickly show what's happening with the RAG agent progress, and then we'll go to evals and spend some time there remaining of the time. So if you could do a very quick demo on that, would be great.
Absolutely. So I'll just share my screen here. Right. So the purpose of this is we web scrape your URL. So here we put these are some internalized docs we have. So platform docs, Outshift.io. It scrapes all of these, and basically for every unique URL inside this, it scraped all the data from the web, whatever that might be. Then basically we put that into like a vector space. So this is like just basic RAG, like obviously splitting it, and we create the actual embedding. And then here we've used Milvus for vector store. So it saves that in Milvus, and then we actually have our agent RAG, which directly communicates to it. So for example, if I ask it to tell me everything about, let me just close that. Tell me everything about container registry choices. Oh, let me just restart the chat. So tell me everything about container registry choices, and same thing as all of our other agents talks through A2A through to our server, and just waiting for agent. Right, so we have our output here. So this is exactly what's on our like docs as well, the same thing. So obviously this just we don't need to build like an API or anything. We can just scrape any URL, makes things really easy. Yeah. Quick demo. Yeah.
Awesome. I think there's some of the things we're thinking about. Again, everybody has their favorite choice of vector stores. We'll start with a couple of choices, and you can also bring your own embeddings, make it flexible. So if you are using like this open source RAG agent, it's using LangChain tooling, so you can plug in other embeddings like APIs. Like in this case, it's using OpenAI embeddings library, and then the vector stores can also be customized. So that's the plan on this. Any quick questions, thoughts? Do you think this agent would be useful for some of you guys? I know everybody has a RAG for sure, but something, at least it's in the open source, you could plug it into rest of the agents in the multi-agent system.
Yeah, I think for our use case, definitely valuable.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Good feedback, and thank you, Rehan, for the quick demo. I think this will come in. I think the PRs are underway, and we'll make sure there'll be documentation for each agent. I want to spend some time on evals. There were some questions on that. I don't know, Arthur, if you'll have a chance to do the Commodore stuff. If you do, we might try at the end of the call. Ifan, if you can catch everybody up to the Langfuse traces and where we are at, and see if we can address. I know, Gaurav, you had some questions on distributed tracing, so we can touch on those. So, Ifan, if you can do a quick 1 or 2 minute update on what we're doing with tracing and how we are doing evals. We can't hear you if you're saying anything.
It's
All
like
right, here you go. Yeah.
so we are doing a distributed tracing, so it's gonna be a little bit complicated to link those two together. But now what I do is actually trying to get the trace of the supervisor agent and the sub agent separately. So you can see this is actually the Argo CD app, Argo CD agent here. Let me put it here. And that's the one for the main supervisor agent. So the current problem is that how do you guys think about connecting those two traces together? So actually, I did a one way. It's actually to link them with the same session ID. So for example, we can, it's not quite implemented, so there are like slightly little bit problem. So I can make the same trace call from the supervisor agent to the sub agent to have the same session ID. But there is a problem that the session ID should be like a, so if imagine if there are like multiple calls with the supervisor agent, so they all should have like the same session ID. So I don't think it's a really nice, well implemented plan. So do you guys have any opinions on how to link those traces together?
I think the direction you're taking looks right, and I know there is some exchange of messages from Langfuse itself. We may want to touch base with them if we can connect these spans together. I think for context for everybody, what we're trying to achieve is when a user initiates the request, it goes to the first supervisor agent and then goes to multiple distributed agents. Ultimately, the goal is to evaluate each prompt to the farthest like leaf node that calls the tool. So we want to make sure that the trajectory matches and the response from that tool, which anyway the supervisor will see, has all the right benchmarks, correctness, and it doesn't hallucinate. It's consistent. Gaurav, you had some questions or opinions on this. Do you have any take on this? Have you done any research with the distributed agents?
So from my side, Shri, I was mostly looking into open inference. I think this is still an unsolved problem, or there are some solutions that Langfuse folks were suggesting on how to tie them together. So I think, like you mentioned, the best source of information would be Langfuse folks on how to help connect these traces. On the comment that on the comment of session ID, I also have a thought like there is a distinction between session ID and then the thread. Basically, what I understand is if we execute one full execution of a lang graph, graph workflow would be a thread, and then if there are multiple executions of those threads, or multiple executions of lang graph workflows, then that would be like a session. So I think um, from my understanding, we would like to see all the agents within a thread being invoked in a distributed fashion to be tied together. I'm not sure if we want to also tie together multiple threads within this together as well. Though it is a useful construct to understand within a user session, if I understand the concept of session correctly here, or the the concept we are using within a context of a user session, how many interactions have happened with the supervisor agent.
I
So
think you're definitely on track. There is a little bit of confusing nomenclature in A2A too. A2A uses something called a task ID. I wonder if a task ID is the same as the thread ID you're referring to. Maybe a good follow-up on this, since we haven't resolved this, is to maybe get together with Langfuse, just even see if they're willing to get on a call and debug this with us.
yeah.
I think one quick question we should, I mean, there should be a decision that we have to make now is that should we combine those those two line graph trays together, or just like somehow link them together? I mean, I found it's kind of impossible to combine those line graph trays into one.
Yeah. I think that's a question to definitely ask the tool builder. But in terms of quick evals that you have done, I think it still didn't stop you from evaluating the supervisor, right? Well, I think you are still able to evaluate system prompts at the supervisor level. Is that correct?
Yeah, but if we don't really combine those two line graph trees together, we can't really evaluate the trajectory, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So that's the problem. So, but I didn't find any documentations of like how to combine those two line graph traits together. I mean, it's like the line graph has its own ways of generating the traces. So we can't really get into the line graph code and do some changes about that. We can just do some extra patch outside of it.
Yeah, so what I would take maybe Ifan is that let's maybe Gaurav, we can also get on the same call. Let's ask Langfuse for a session and maybe we can try to debug this with them.
Yeah, I think I can definitely participate in that, and we can work together with Langfuse folks. And I know we are over time, so just want to quickly also mention about that open inference thing that I looked at. So what I understand is, just to summarize, is it does offer some semantics and conventions on top of OpenTelemetry to help standardize different types of spans and metadata that we can collect. And I mentioned in the chat also different types of spans. So it's good we have Langfuse folks on the Slack, and I've asked them their perspective on open inference in general, how
Yeah,
mature it is, what is the community's perspective, and whether it is worth looking into and incorporating for helping standardize on different types of spans and visualization. I see a benefit there, but again, we also need to see how mature and um, you know useful it is, and whether the plain vanilla open telemetry integration gives the information good enough
yeah.
for the visibility into the workflow.
Do you know if Langfuse supports open inference or that's
Yeah.
the open part? They do support it.
They support open inference. So there is an example on Langfuse documentation that I have referenced in the chat,
Okay.
where they show how to use open inference. And again, the value I was seeing is from completeness perspective. So we make sure that yes, all the span kinds are being traced, and there is a separate visualization for each span kind, so that whoever is looking into distributed trace can identify that, okay, this is a tool call versus a knowledge base call versus a guardrail call versus an LLM call or a
Yeah.
sub-agent call. So
Yeah.
it was good to see all those span kinds mentioned and having a separate visualization for them.
I think that's a good. Gaurav, do you mind either writing an issue or a discussion? I think this is a good topic for us to develop discussion. Maybe Fawn, we should take a look at adding open inference.
And that's where
That's
I was
possible.
curious, Ifan. I had a couple of questions for you in the chat. If you can respond in the chat itself, is like what libraries or SDKs we are using today, and how are we interfacing with Langfuse backend in our multi-agent systems. So if you can respond in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right.
This has been a great discussion. Thank you, everyone. And our docs are up and there, so check it out, try it out, and Sunny will update the EKS docs shortly, and we'll do some cleanup on that as well. So I appreciate everybody's time, and if you have further questions, post it in the Slack channel. We'll continue to pick this back up next week.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yeah.